I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers today. It's kind of interesting because when I was looking at the speakers today, I'm going, Christina, I know that name. Why do I know it? And she approached me too, and we've known each other from way back in another lifetime. It was really a pleasure to reintroduce ourselves this morning. So Christina Ingenito is a licensed clinical social worker. She is a transpersonal and somatic psychotherapist with a private practice in Petaluma. She has been in LCSW since 1986 and has done hospice work for over 25 years, and she facilitates a restorative justice group for men serving in prison at San Quentin. Actually, life in prison at San Quentin. She works with intersection of mystery, social justice, and empowerment. And I know her previous work around this, and believe me, she does really good. Jim Matto-Shepard is a licensed psychologist with a specialization in somatic, couples, and group psychotherapy. He was licensed in 1997. He is also a certified conscious dance soul motion teacher. Jim is passionate about authenticity in relationship and has been immersed in ritual and meditation since 1978. Both Christina and Jim are certified in ketamine-assisted psychotherapy and are recent graduates from CIIS, Certified in Psychedelic Therapies and Research Program. Along with two colleagues, they have founded and opened the first psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy clinic in Sonoma County here in Petaluma. It was formerly known as the Northern California Center for Integrative Psychotherapy and is now known as Temenos Center for Integrative Psychotherapy. Please welcome Christina and Jim.
It's really a pleasure to be here. It's great to be able to do my favorite thing, which is talk about psychedelics. Well, it's almost my favorite thing. There are a couple of things that I prefer. One of the others being doing psychedelics, of course. We're here today to talk about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy primarily. Although, in order to talk about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, we really need to talk about psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. And in order to talk about psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, in my mind, we need to put it into the context of cultural transformation, personal and cultural transformation. Everyone in this room is aware that we are in a cultural transformation. It may seem way, way, way too slow for many of us, but it is happening, and this is an important part of it. What we'll do today is Christina and I will trade off back and forth, going back and forth, talking about various aspects of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy and ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. And then at the end, we'll ask you, we'll have a Q&A. If you have questions, we'll do our best to answer those. And then at the very end, we're going to save the last 8 minutes for a presentation that's a video presentation that actually my wife Felicia put together. Thank you, Felicia, for that. I remain super impressed and I'm appreciative that you let us use it today. We've already done a little bit of a grounding today, but as we speak today, our desire is to, even in every moment, it's my desire for every moment of my life to approach it in this new way. What is the new way? I don't know. The new way is not doing it the kind of, unfortunately, it's not opposite of the evidence-based way, But it has to integrate the evidence-based way and do something different to break out of that. That's what psychedelics are about. They loosen boundaries. They break us out of something. They take us into the unknown. So Christina and I are going to be doing our best to do that today while we give you information about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy and psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. So in order to start that, let's go back to creating a space here together. I invite you to start by looking around and look first back at the door, the entryways, the exit ways. Like if you needed to get out, that's where you'd go. Right there where Diana Greer is walking into the room. Thank you. Hi, Diana. Nice to see you. The ceiling, the floor, speakers, screen, lights, all the people. If you're like me, there's a part of you that being in a room of this many people makes the eyes get a little bit wider and the heart beat a little bit faster. Something could happen that may make you not safe. But at the same time, all of these people are here for a similar reason. We're all here because we're caring individuals and we want to do our best to not only help ourselves transform, but to help our clients transform and to help culture transform. This is a kind of a tribe. Let's go back inside for just another moment, letting your eyes go down or close if you'd like. And give some attention to whatever it is that you can sense inside of your body. Perhaps you can feel your feet on the floor, your butt against the chair, or against the back of the chair, your back. And let's bring a little extra attention to our breath. Whether you're breathing your breath intentionally or simply aware that your breath is arising and falling away. The awareness of how breath is happening connects us to that which lives us with that is us that lives. Transformation requires that we go beyond learning into actually being different. What will that mean for us today? Consider this. Is there any place in your life, personal or professional, that's calling for transformation? Is there any place in your life, personally or professionally, that's calling for transformation? Not just learning, not just doing something differently, but transforming into a new thing. Christina is going to come up at this point and do a performance piece. It's a performance piece about her experience as an MDMA participant a participant in an MDMA study. So in that sense, it's a case presentation for psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, but it's also a continuation of the fact that we want to do something that's outside the norm. I struggled because I was going to put PowerPoint slides up on the screen, and then I realized I don't want to put PowerPoint slides up on the screen. I want to be here and look you in the eyes and have you look me in the eyes and have whatever can come between us and be between us be more important than perhaps saying something with exactly the right words. It's more important to me. So let's welcome Christina.
I'm an oops baby. The last born into a first-generation working-class family in Queens, New York City. The only one, it seems, thrilled with my arrival is my adoring father. I'm not the apple of his eye. I'm his orchard. I'm an inquisitive, rebellious, and sensitive child. This doesn't bode well for me amidst the constant volley of biting sarcasm in a family held together with secrets and lies. I learn early and often how to make my skin thick, keep my heart safe. When I'm 11 years old, my beloved father suddenly and unexpectedly dies. There's no such thing as grief support in 1967. And even if there was, my family would never do it. Very fast forward, I grow up confident, curious, and passionate. A college education, the women's movement, and psychotherapy conspire to change the course of my life forever. I even become a psychotherapist. I do hospice work. I facilitate a restorative justice group with men serving life in prison at San Quentin. I'm a competent, caring, helping professional. And healthy. I've always been very healthy. I write and perform memoir. I sing in a chorus. I travel the world. I've been heard to say over and over, I love my life. All that changes on Thanksgiving weekend 2015. On Sunday, my new partner George, who I am utterly enchanted with, suddenly and unexpectedly leaves. The next day, I get a call from Lana, my primary care doc. It's not good news, but it was caught early, treatable, maybe just surgery. Call this breast surgeon, he's the best, he'd be my choice. Lumpectomy, mastectomy, radiation, chemotherapy, hormone therapy. Just surgery? Did she really just say just surgery? Who's she talking to? I have breast cancer? George is gone? I never thought it would be breast cancer. Not me. Not my breasts. I love them. We have a relationship. They're part of my identity. Even after gravity did what gravity does, they're still two of my best features. The source of nothing but pleasure. How could this be? It's like a betrayal. Who am I without my beautiful, healthy breasts? Suddenly and unexpectedly, I become a patient, a single patient. I meet with Charlie, the breast surgeon, and the kindest, most empathic man imaginable. He sends me for an MRI. It shows no signs of cancer in my other breast. This is good, very good. But it doesn't feel good. Is it anywhere else? Will I ever not wonder? Everyone's got plenty of advice. Stay away from sugar. Get a second opinion. Watch the wine. Stay positive. Stay active. Find the silver lining. What about yoga? Get enough sleep. Don't forget to breathe. New treatment at UCLA, cutting edge in Europe. Have you joined a support group yet? You look great. My neighbor, niece, mother, daughter, dental hygienist had breast cancer. They're fine. You're the strongest person I know. Ha! You're lucky. Everything happens for a reason. You're going to beat this. No problem. Call me if you need anything. How about some soup? How about stop? There is no silver lining. I can't join this cult of positivity or wear that pretty pink ribbon. I am not a cancer warrior. This is not a battle. These war metaphors don't work for me. Oh, and by the way, it's not a journey either. In my world, that involves airline tickets or psychedelics. This is a nightmare. George, where are you? Surgery happens. The margins are clear, no lymph node involvement, the best possible news. I should be thrilled. I'm ashamed that I'm not. My recovery is swift. My heartbreak remains. It could be stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Pain in my bones, confusion in my brain, gone in 6 weeks. It happens. I've seen it. Instead, I have the good kind of cancer. Everyone says so. Everyone except for Jared, my handsome in a wholesome kind of way medical oncologist. He says there are no good cancers, only bad and worse cancers. I love Jared. But still, I feel myself falling. I didn't plan to, I swear. Fall apart, I mean. I've always been so exuberant, so full of life, so well put together. Now, I'm flat, flattened, broken. For the first time in my life, I disintegrate into despair and plunge into a well of depression. I can't work. Don't know if I can ever return to hospice work. Can't stop crying, can't answer the phone. Some days, can't even find a reason to get out of bed. I don't know what's worse, having cancer or losing George. Nothing touches me or seems to matter. I am in a state of total resignation. Aren't these the times we're supposed to find out what we're made of? I'm a hospice worker, for God's sakes. I'm ashamed of how resilient I'm not. Wait. I don't have trauma like this. Not me. I help other people with their trauma. Husbands and mothers, children and lovers, dying in grief, incarceration and life sentences. It's who I am. It's what I do. So, who am I now? Where's that life that I loved? The depression stays, then the anxiety arrives, comes all too often in the quiet hours. How do I pay my bills, support my life, work again? Is my hospice career over? How do I find the time, money, energy to eat healthy, local, organic, exercise, meditate, sleep well, stay hydrated, stay alkalized? How many supplements do I have to take? How much do they cost? What the hell are turkey tails? What's that spot on my face, that pain in my chest, that ache in my arm? Did they get it all? Is it back? Has it spread? Will these questions ever stop? How do I not live in fear? I can't live in fear. I won't live in fear. I'm scared. Lands me in the ER one afternoon with tachycardia and chest pains. What I learned much later is a panic attack. Me? I don't know who I am anymore. Almost a year later, Treatment's complete. 33 rounds of radiation instead of that planned trip to Colombia. And now 5 years of hormone therapy ahead. Menopause 2.0. I'm cured, they say. Doctors love that word. But that's not how it feels. Everything's different on this side of a cancer diagnosis. I'll never not have cancer again. Jared understands. Comforts me. It's normal to be nervous about your first mammogram after diagnosis. I'm here for you. Be gentle with yourself. Have I mentioned that I love him? His words help, but in the hospital parking lot, my heart's racing, my legs are rubbery, I'm dizzy, and my vision is foggy. I'm sweating on a cold November day. Is this normal? Turns out results are good. I should be relieved. I feel guilty that I'm not. But this darkness, it just won't go. December 2016, I finally agree to attend the cancer support group I've resisted for the past year. I meet a woman there who's a subject in an MDMA PTSD study. I didn't even know there was such a thing. After 25 years of talk therapy with no relief, now she says she's cured. There's that word again. Doctors may like it, but it's not one we hear or use much in psychotherapy. I am astonished, but skeptical. I've explored non-ordinary states of consciousness, from psychedelic party drugs to sacred medicine ceremonies, for 40 years. I never imagined they'd be my salvation out of this darkness. I do some research. There's a clinical trial in Marin County for people with anxiety disorders related to life-threatening illness. I think that's me. They're looking for participants. Carrying my curiosity and skepticism in equal measure, I arrive at a home filled with art, altars, and orchids. There are measurements to complete, protocols to follow, urine to test. No matter these details, I can already tell I am in rarefied air. I proceed to have the most comprehensive psychological assessment of my life. The only diagnosis I've ever had before is adjustment disorder with mixed emotional features. I'm proud of this. Now, they tell me I qualify. Anxiety, PTSD, depression. Me? Yes, me. Julaine and Evan are my therapists. Phil is the principal investigator and psychiatrist. Julaine is tender, nurturing, motherly. Phil has swum in the psychedelic waters for over 50 years. And Evan is earnest, eager, and, it doesn't hurt, handsome. They tell me they can help. From a place I had long forgotten, the dimmest glimmer of hope is ignited. Is this really possible? Yes. Yes, it really is. These therapists, this medicine, this protocol, this most intensive therapeutic modality of my therapy-intensive life changes everything. Cozily tucked onto the comfy couch, Mount Tam out the window, blood pressure cuff and thermometer, eye shades, headphones, specially chosen music, Julaine and Evan at my side, we begin. Within moments of feeling the medicine in my body, something dramatically shifts, loosens its grip. My first words come. I am so well taken care of. It's not a matter of believing it. It is simply true. A matter of fact. Everything is okay. I feel the essential truth of this pulsate through my entire being. There are 3 of these 8-hour medicine sessions and 12 integration psychotherapy sessions in between. I spend the night after every medicine session and meet with Jelaine and Evan in the morning for integration. They hold me, see me, and care for me like I've never experienced in a therapeutic setting. Some say that 20 years of psychotherapy can happen in a single psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy session. If that's so, and I agree that it's possible, then 20 years worth of transference can happen too. And it does. I fall in love with them instantly, and I love them still. I will always love them. Early in the first medicine session, I sit up, look intently at Jelaine and Evan, and say something whose significance it will take me more than a year to discover. I want to do what you're doing. They smile, put my eye shades and headphones back on, and invite me to go back inside. I lay down and give myself over to these people, this medicine, this holy healing. I effortlessly access the vastness of the vastness, soar through galaxies of galaxies, swim in warm, wild rivers as I become the rivers, the otters, the stones, the riverbanks. There is no separation. Compassion ignites in me for everything, for everyone, no exceptions. I am the 10-year-old refugee girl in the boat. I am the foot of the man who kicks the girl into the sea. I am the sea where the girl drowns. In a place beyond words and concepts where the oneness of everything simply is, I rest. Beyond my body, beyond cancer and George, beyond I, way beyond my. I'm back, home again, in this body, this life. I'm working again at hospice and private practice, writing and performing, singing and traveling. I take that trip to Colombia. And I even put my profile back up on the dating site. I'm feeling again, not only the bowled over sorrow of life, but its pure, exquisite beauty. I am saying again, I love my life. William Stafford wrote a poem that's been a touchstone for me throughout this process. There's a thread that you follow. It goes among things that change. But it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're doing. You have to explain about the thread. But it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die. You suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. But you see, I did let go. I didn't mean to. I couldn't help it. I got lost. I let go. But here's the thing. And here's what the medicine gave me. The thread never let go of me. That sounds like the end of the story, but really it's just the beginning. My life since the study, I'm doing what they were doing. Temenos is up and running. We offer ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. I facilitate psilocybin retreats with myco meditations in Jamaica. I speak at conferences and trainings, and I'm here to tell you, I'm cured. It's been over 4 years since this journey began. Finally, I have found the purpose of my descent, without which I never would have qualified for the study. I see it now so clearly. All of that was the necessary portal to all of this. Finally, I am able to say thank you and mean it. I bow in endless gratitude to the medical community that saved my body, to Julaine, Evan, and Phil, to psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, and to the molecule that saved my life.
I've heard that half a dozen times. It always makes me cry each time. Thanks so much. I've been a psychologist I've been a licensed psychologist for 30 years, and I've been doing the work for at least 40, and I've tried somatic psychology, I've tried, ADP, SCT, you name it, almost, and for the first time, I feel like, okay, there is something that can be a legitimate co-therapist, something that can actually create the kind of transformation that I've been looking for since I was 24 and took psilocybin, and it created a transformation in me that led me to be standing here in front of you right now. Let's talk about psychedelics as a whole for a moment. Psychedelics are medicines that help facilitate fundamental psychological reorganization and transformation. They're quite different. There are maybe 7 or 10 major psychedelics that are being used as medicines. And they're all very different from each other. Some are a little bit like the other. Many operate on the serotonergic system. Ketamine operates on the glutamatergic system, so it's very different in kind. But here's the things that they have in common. They all loosen the boundaries between parts. So they loosen the boundaries between the parts of ourselves. They loosen the boundaries between me and you. And they loosen the boundaries between us and that which is bigger than us. And they introduce into the system the unknown. They introduce mystery. And therein lies the rub of psychedelics in culture. We know historically that psychedelics have been around ever since mankind has had a neocortex, or at least since recorded history. People have been using psychedelics. But in Western culture, psychedelics have been either unknown or very vaguely known until about the early 1900s, when they began to be researched. I lost my train of thought, sorry. So I'm talking about how each psychedelic has its own signature, but each one is different from the other. And while they all loosen boundaries and create mystery, they also create a sense of openness to something that's bigger than us. Interestingly, research shows that the amount of mystery that you feel when you do psychedelics is correlated with the amount of healing that happens for psychological issues. Research is about proving something is the same each time. Mystery is about proving that there's something you can't know. how do these things go together? That's what psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy is about. Psychedelics, I took psychedelics when I was 24. I was just partying, really. I was just hanging with a friend, took mushrooms, smoked a little pot, and the next thing I knew, I had a spiritual awakening. And in that spiritual awakening, I saw like, oh, I'm going to be a psychologist. You know, that was what, 50, almost, 45 years ago. Psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy brings the known part, it's not really known, but the structured part, the part that makes it repeatable. Psychotherapy brings that in through what we call, in the old days we called it set and setting. Set and setting was the term that we used for when we did psychedelics in the wild, so to speak. We knew that we wanted to have our mind set in a certain way, and we wanted to be in a pleasant environment. That was one of the first things that they discovered when psychedelics sort of went rogue, so to speak. But now I call this scaffolding. Scaffolding includes setting, sitter, or guide, or psychotherapist. The psychedelic, which includes not just the type of psychedelic, but the amount of psychedelic, the route of administration of the psychedelic, and the integration process, what happens after the psychedelic. So sometimes a person can take a psychedelic and it'll just introduce the unknown in a way that creates change. Transformation, really. Other times, not so much. When we talk about ketamine later, we'll look at how ketamine actually requires extra scaffolding. Let's look just a moment at what scaffolding means for a ketamine-assisted psychotherapist. Mindset means, what's the psychology of the person going in? Are they pessimistic, optimistic, neutral? Do they think they know but they don't? Do they think they don't know but they actually know more than they think? The whole personality set of the person. We add on to that, so we look at that and then we say, okay, well, what's your intention? And we try to help people structure their knowledge of themselves and what they're hoping to get in a way that will allow them, when they get into that place, to make the transformation. We give them breathing techniques and work with them on how breath can move them through anxiety. We give them mindfulness techniques and help them understand how mindfulness can help them in the middle of the journey. So it's all mindset. Then we create a setting that is as pleasant and sort of offers hints as to where we might go as best we possibly can. And then we look at, if we're looking at just at ketamine, we look at, well, what will the route of administration be with the ketamine, or what will the amount of the ketamine be? We'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about ketamine, because it's variable by a lot with ketamine. You have to really know what you're getting into, because it goes very different ways. Sort of at the low end from almost like an MDMA experience, to at the high end, like completely dissociated in some kind of other realm where external reality is gone and you're just conscious at some deep inner place inside of you that you've never been before. Looking at psychedelics in general, the physiological mechanism that people talk about that causes this loosening of boundaries, this mystery introduction, is based on the default mode network. The default mode network is it's really a net of neurons that organizes different aspects of the brain. Some people equate it with ego, or part of our identity. When that gets loosened, then what happens is there's a possibility for something that's perhaps more natural to come through. Our culture is so complex that when we incorporate culture as throughout our development, which is what we really do, is we take in culture, a certain branch of culture, then it's very difficult being in that water to know how to move through it. And we see this with our clients that have defensive structures that they can't figure out how to untangle from. But it's really true for each one of us if we go down to the level of personality and ego. How do we let go of that enough so that there's a reconnection and integration that's really in a more natural way? I'll give you an analogy. The analogy is this. If you cut your hand and you go to the doctor says, oh, that's really a bad cut. Let's clean that out. Let's stitch that up. Now you go home. You go home because the doctor can't heal your hand. The only thing that can heal your hand is so mysterious to you that you can't heal it either. You're just there going, I hope it heals. And it does. Like, wow, that's so awesome. The same thing can happen psychologically. If we clean out the cut, if we stitch it up, if we create the conditions, then we can realign with what's natural and we can heal ourselves.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's currently happening in the field of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy and the research. First of all, even before I say that, I want to say that there's only 2 psychedelic medicines that are currently legal. One of them is ketamine, and not everybody considers this next one a psychedelic medicine. The next one is cannabis. People are using it in psychedelic ways. Everything else that you hear about, that you know about yourself, none of those are currently legal in the United States of America. However, we are making some big progress. In 1986, Rick Doblin, who has a PhD in public policy from Harvard, founded MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. He realized at that time that the only way to legitimize MDMA was by proving its efficacy through rigorous clinical trials administered by the FDA. This was right after it was rescheduled during the war on drugs. By the late 1980s, studies began at Stanford and Johns Hopkins universities. Since that time, MAPS has raised over $70 million and funded and conducted 12 clinical trials throughout the world, focused primarily on MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD, as well as anxiety related to life-threatening illness, the study I was in, and social anxiety in autistic adults. Plans are currently underway for additional studies focused on race-based trauma and transgendered clients. Because of MDMA's ability to decrease the fear response and increase empathy and personal trust, it was recognized as having great potential for PTSD. These studies have shown this to be overwhelmingly accurate. So here we are now in 2020, and results across all the studies remain consistent and impressive. For participants with treatment-resistant PTSD, which means they've had 2 or more failed courses of conventional therapy, 75% of them no longer meet the criteria for PTSD, an average of 3.5 years after their study completion. That is indeed impressive. No other current treatment modalities for PTSD show this level of efficacy. Not even close. MAPS is currently in phase 3 trials with MDMA. Then comes expanded access sometime later this year. And we expect MDMA to be rescheduled and available by prescription by next year or early 2022. The times they are changing. There are similar studies and impressive results with the use of psilocybin, the psychedelically active ingredient in magic mushrooms. David Nichols, a pharmacologist and chemist, started the Hefter Institute in 1993 with the sole focus on researching the efficacy of psilocybin mushrooms to address mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and alcohol use disorder. Roland Griffiths, a psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins, and Tony Bossis, a psychologist at NYU, have focused their research with psilocybin for people at the end of life. With only one treatment of psilocybin, their studies consistently show dramatic reduction in end-of-life distress for trial participants. Additionally, and of great note, a large percentage of trial participants rate their psilocybin experience as one of the most spiritually significant of their life. Johns Hopkins recently received $17 million in grant money to fund and open a psychedelic research center. And the USONA Institute is moving clinical research through the FDA trial process. Psilocybin, like MDMA, has actually been fast-tracked by the FDA because the results of the studies are so promising. It is currently in phase 2 trials and will likely also be rescheduled and available by prescription within the next 2 years. I think that's it for me at this point.